Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks. Ladies and gentlemen, hi there. Okay, end of the week. Let me jump right in. I got an email from a listener of the show and a guest on the show, Dr. Luther Smith. A very intelligent man, no doubt about that. And he sent me an email specifically regarding the Sydney Sweeney American Eagle commercial. And I know a lot of people have commented on this, and I haven't made a comment on it because to me it's not a bad thing. It's rather obvious as to what's going on. Again, it's advertising and it's a company. And it's certainly a company, again, that knows exactly how to market itself to make more money when in the past they've lost a great deal of money. And American Eagle, again, is a company, and their ownership specifically was wrapped up in pedophilia and grooming minors. And a number of other things. Again, sexual exploitation and sexual assault and a number of other things. And again, certainly a company in their position after all of that, and again, whether there were convictions or not has slipped my mind, but either way, you would have to do some serious rebranding. Now, as you might recall, American Eagle, again, back in the day, certainly when I was a younger kid, their clothing was more expensive than your average clothing, and of course it was trendy and sort of, worn by popular kids and a number of other things. And then, of course, as we got older, their clothing started to increase in price but decline in quality, so much so that you had, of course, a generation of people walking around wearing jeans with holes in them and slashes in them and basically paying $80 to $100 for a pair of jeans to basically wear rags on your pants, or rags on your legs, rather. And it looked strange, and I frankly didn't understand it at the time, but I get it now. It was designed, again, to sort of psychologically operate and socially engineer individuals into wasting money on something that they could do themselves on an old pair of jeans, or just go to Goodwill and do that, again, on an old pair of jeans that somebody else wore. And carve up their own pants any way that they see fit at, of course, a fraction of the cost. It was a very strange phenomenon that was happening, again, with the wardrobe, but that too is a part of social engineering, is to decrease the look of wardrobe among a culture in order to slowly degenerate that culture. And it works. And it has worked, and it did work. And of course, that was part of the problem, and we are now, of course, experiencing the aftermath of all of that. When I became a school teacher, it was very trendy for students to wear Hollister clothing. I remember that specifically. I never wore that clothing because, again, it wasn't intended for people like me. It was intended for younger generations. But people, again, specifically middle school and even some high school students would walk around wearing Hollister clothes. And it would just even say Hollister on a shirt that they would wear. And it was basically a way of saying, I have more money than you have. Or I shop at this particular store and you don't. And again, it was designed to do exactly what it was designed to do, was create division among individuals and among youth. And unnecessarily so, again, over something that's remarkably superficial that doesn't really matter. But Dr. Smith here sent me this, and it's his take on this particular commercial, which of course shows Sydney Sweeney, a white woman, again, wearing jeans, and it says she has the best jeans. She grabs her ass, wipes her hands on her ass, and then, of course, walks into a Mustang and then spins around in a couple of circles and what have you. You've probably seen the ad yourself. I'm not against the ad. I'm all for it. In fact, when it comes to overweight minorities in commercials attempting to exercise, this is a breath of fresh air. One of the worst commercials I've ever seen was during the COVID lie. And it was a remarkably morbidly obese black woman, and she's wearing a mask, and she's running at full speed, sprinting. And it was a COVID mask commercial and a Nike commercial. I mean, you can't make up that level of stupidity. It was incredible. But I remember that commercial, and it's ingrained in my head, unfortunately. And it's going to stay there for the rest of my life. So, if that commercial has to stay in my head and I don't like it, well, then this commercial gets to stick in communists' head for the rest of their lives if they don't like it either. What this also does show, which he explains, is the business of and it's not even soft bigotry anymore. It's an in-your-face bigotry that comes from the communist left. And they have no problem telling everybody exactly how they feel about it, which is fine. They're entitled to their stupid opinion, just like I'm entitled to my intellectual opinion. But either way, here's what he said. He said, "Hello, Dr. Brooks. I wanted to write you about some of my thoughts concerning Sydney Sweeney and what I believe are multiple layers of this advertisement, as well as how in the microcosm it underscores some very important ideas being promoted within the culture. My interest throughout my life has not only been socio-political but also popular culture, because the Khazarian Mafia has controlled pop culture in an attempt to steer cultural narrative. I find this particular campaign with American Eagle to be most interesting, as the tagline is, quote, Sydney Sweeney has good genes, unquote. However, they cross out the word genes, Genes, and under it write the word jeans, Jeans. He said, I'm convinced that all of those who are brainwashed, this is not an accident. She is an actress who has played various roles throughout her career. She is a 27-year-old white woman and quite attractive. This campaign is targeting all the right people. But I want to outline what I believe is going on beyond just blue jeans. Number one, the highlighting of a healthy body and mind. It is true that to have a strong, healthy nation, you need strong, healthy citizens. This is underscored throughout history by statues and structures of the human body found in all ancient civilizations. It was a message to those who lived in that culture representing a healthy body, and that was also consistent with a healthy mind. Our country, until recently, promoted those who lifted more ho-hos and Swiss rolls than dumbbells. Those who went to the gym, ate well, and promoted moderation in sweets were ridiculed. There were women around this time who were shamed for being physically attractive and keeping up with that attractiveness by working out and caring for their bodies. That's his first point, and he's 100% right. And you're seeing it even to this day, the disintegration of that particular positive messaging in culture, where you even have, I believe it's in Ontario, Canada, if I'm not mistaken, it's a black statue of a overweight black woman with her hands on her hips looking basically obstinate. And that's just been erected as if to say, stand up for things that you find offensive or something along those lines. But it's this big bronze statue. It's completely absurd. His second point, he says, this highlighting of eugenics. As I mentioned before, the tag phrase, Sydney Sweeney has good genes, Genes. He says, I laughed because this is what the term eugenics means. Of course, all the right people who have no clue about the term eugenics are upset about this and are discussing it. This is a dumb move on the part of those who were brainwashed because they are unaware of the information that exists concerning what eugenics means, as they are unaware that this forces people to talk about what constitutes good genes or eugenics. This second point is related to the first point above, as there seems to be some word association at play here. A person watching the commercial may connect these qualities to eugenics, particularly among young people. This is counterproductive to the overweight, poorly dressed, mainly colored hair, metal-piercing women that have been put in front of all of us as an example of what constitutes not only beauty but eugenics, which has actually been dysgenics. When they bring up quote-unquote Nazis as having a eugenics plan and connect Margaret Sanger as if my boy Adolf and she are the same people with the same perspective, the mainstream media has lost the narrative among the populace. Exactly. They don't know what the words mean, and they just repeat them on a loop, on TikTok or on their social media by staring into their cell phones, yelling about the particular ads, forgetting that when they were younger, those ads were commonplace and it didn't bother them at that stage of the game. Again, American Eagle ads back in the day, certainly when I was a kid, you didn't see minorities in those giant posters that would exist in shopping malls. They were all white kids by and large. I mean, again, Okay, they get to do that. Again, so do other brands. If you go into another clothing store, for example, and the clothes again that are being sold in that particular store may be catered toward, minority individuals like Black Americans, for example. Well, then so be it. You're going to expect to see pictures of Black men and women wearing those clothes. That doesn't bother me. That's basically par for the course. He goes on here, number 3, the highlighting of American values. This is a short point, but I find it interesting that the company that has decided to promote this campaign is American Eagle. This could have been any other company that promoted this campaign. It was not Forever 21, it was not Old Navy, or any other company. Again, this suggests that good genes, i.e. genetics, ought to be reinstated in American conscience. Additionally, American Eagle is a popular destination for the younger generation to shop for their clothes. Once more, this is a direct target at young adults, not only to think about their clothes, but also to think about their genes, Genes, or i.e. Jeans. Additionally, this extends to the fact that we, as a country, ought to celebrate the best of our citizens, whether it be their physical features, talents, skills, abilities, knowledge, character, virtues, or courage. This was also a practice in the ancient world, as these things within societies were celebrated and held up as examples in society. Again, he's 100% right. And the constant, again, perversions that we've seen and the inversion of all of this messaging over the course of time has been on purpose. And it's been on purpose to demoralize, because that's how you destroy a country and the people within, is you consistently demoralize them to the point where they don't feel like they have any control over anything. And then before you know it, you own their mind. And when you own their mind, then you own their body. And then again, you can move them around like a slave, basically in any direction that you want. The other interesting point about this, which I emailed him back, and he's not done here, I'm going to keep going because he continues to be right, is that the line, we have good genes, or we have the best genes. It's actually a very old meme, and it's essentially a meme slogan for again, lack of a better phrase, and it's a meme slogan that clearly American Eagle specifically took. And they thought to themselves, whoever it is, again, that runs that company now, they thought to themselves, okay, we can use this particular meme slogan, and yeah, it will probably have multiple meanings, and of course they're in the advertising business, so why would they not know that? And then they used it to their advantage, because again, they're a company that's interested in making a profit and having, again, their percentage as a company and their profits dramatically increased, and it's working. Again, the old meme it's been used numerous times, regardless of the picture, but it's typically, again, used with white women. And it's attractive white women. It's the meme that's in my head, which I even saw it on Gab just the other day. It's 4 blonde-haired, blue-eyed white women, very attractive, and they're all next to each other, and they're all posing for a picture, and they're holding a sign. And it says, we have the best jeans, and they're all wearing jeans. Now again, the direct implication is you're not really looking at their jeans. I mean, they fill out a pair of jeans nicely, but again, you're not looking at the jeans necessarily. You're looking at the fact that they're all attractive white women. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, people would say that that's racist or bigoted or whatever. No, it isn't. Advocating for your race and advocating for healthy people, period, regardless of race. Healthy-minded, healthy-bodied, common sense-driven, hardworking people and good-looking people is not a bad thing, and that's not bigoted, and that's not racist. That's a good thing. He goes on here. He says, number 4, the highlighting of anti-whiteism. He says this campaign with Sydney Sweeney has brought up the white hatred from all of the people who have placed this destructive and toxic narrative out in the culture. Once again, she is a 27-year-old white woman from Washington. Once more, this campaign has highlighted the double standard from minorities and the entitlement that has existed from among them. Me being a minority myself, this campaign is a breath of fresh air, as I was tired of looking at these ugly women. Exclamation point, he said. This commercial reminded me of the jeans commercials from my childhood. Sydney Sweeney fits the campaign of American Eagle, but she was not given the role in the commercial because she was a so-called BIPOC, or lesbian, or some butch-looking woman. She was given the part because she was beautiful and white. This also connects back to America and its history, as well as eugenics, as the culture attempts to communicate that white is ugly, quote unquote, or white is racist, quote unquote, or even white is un-American, quote unquote. This campaign adds to challenge and dismantle this narrative. By the way, most of those who are Generation Z and white Americans shop at American Eagle. Again, he's right. Number 5. This highlights what we as humans ought to control, that we as humans ought to control our DNA. This American Eagle campaign underscores something important to all of us human beings, that we control our DNA. Therefore, we control our genes. If the culture influences us to embrace the worst of us, the mediocre. In fact, I believe this was one of the last Q posts that was written asking the question about who controls our DNA. And that at the heart of the battle is that they want our biological information, hence our DNA. If the culture at large promotes the degeneracy and weakness, we give ourselves over to them and allow them to control our genes, our DNA. By the way, this is the point of Planned Parenthood, to convince us that our life is worthless, so that we would give our life away to destroy willingly. This is the apex of dysgenics, the destruction of our physical progeny and our body parts and cells to the highest bidder. Again, good genes come not only from good water, food, air, etc., but us choosing these things for ourselves and seeing that we are indeed valuable beings. If we are healthy, it is because we have made a conscious decision to become and stay healthy. If we can choose this for ourselves, then we can think for ourselves and make decisions for ourselves. It is not only about good genes, genes, or iegeans, of whites, although whites are the focus of the ire and have been for a long time. But since white people are the majority, i.e. American culture and the West, and if they are healthy, they become the example for the rest of the world on how to own and control their own life. He wrapped up and said the following: I believe the American Eagle campaign is one of the most subtle and intellectually sophisticated psychological operations, psyops, that I have seen in popular culture. Changing federal policy is just one aspect of the plan, but it is a multi-pronged approach in striving to change the minds of the citizenry, especially the young adults. Interestingly enough, this was also the belief and tactic of Adolf Hitler, that healthy and strong people are happy people, and that we ought to celebrate the best of ourselves, which makes us better as a people. This is something that the Reich promoted in all nations and cultures it impacted. This commercial is more than just genes, Geans. It is about genes, Genes. This is not only about Sydney Sweeney. It is about changing the narrative about white people and recognizing their rich culture and history. This commercial is not about American Eagle. This commercial is about America and American values, period. He said, "Take care, sir, where we go one, we go all." Luther Smith, unquote. He's right. He's 100% right. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt that it is a coordinated effort. There is this aspect too, and I'm not saying this to play devil's advocate. I'm just saying this is the advertising game, and they might do this or they might not. But in the future, they could keep the same slogan. They could say so-and-so has the best genes. And it would just be a different race of a different person. So it would be, again, a black male or a black female or an Asian male or a what have you. And then they use the same line. But then I don't know, they engage in some other kind of activity or whatever the hell it would be. But I mean, it's quite possible that American Eagle could do that in the future. What I do know, of course, because we still make up the majority in this country as, of course, white people. The fact is that, again, if that gets people out of the house to buy their product, they know that. as a company, and they're 100% fine with it, and so am I, because that's capitalism. That's the business. The thing that I would like to see not happen anymore, which I think I also explained to him in my return email, is just the general ebb and flow of the back and forth of the destruction of the people of our society for profit, and then the exact opposite. As time passes and people get upset, and then they say, stop beating us down, stop, calling us names and making us feel terrible. And then, of course, they feed the American people that American spirit yet again, so to speak, to only then profit from it on the back end. I mean, they're making money one way or another, but there is no doubt that it is far more profitable as a company to promote healthy looking, healthy minded, healthy people who are, again, happy and free willing and free living and all of that, rather than, frowny face, overweight nobodies that, I don't know, promote race mixing and a million other things. I mean, it's just, it's exhausting. And again, that demoralizes people, but that's why they've done it in the past, is to demoralize people, to basically cause people to give up. But that's not even profitable either, because as we've said before, the plight of a Bolshevik is to rule over the ashes. I mean, they really don't care if their company or their business or whatever it is that they claim to be representing destroys itself. They're 100% fine with that. They just want it. They just want people demoralized in the process, and they want the thing that they own gone. And they don't care if it's gone, because they'll still have some money in the end, and they'll be 100% fine. So either way, again, I think that I think it's a well-placed ad. There's no doubt about it. If it's having a positive impact, then great. If people are running to the store to buy more jeans and more clothing from American Eagle, so be it. They have the freedom to do that. I'm not doing it, but that's just because I stopped shopping there a very long time ago, and it's not necessarily from my generation. But either way, I mean, his analysis of it is 100% accurate. I do believe, again, that it is purposefully designed to reinvigorate Americans to being American and understanding what that means. And that's not a bad thing. That's a very good thing. Because again, just to wrap up, as you fully understand, the double standard is blinding. If Black Americans are allowed to enjoy their race and advocate for their race and be proud of their race, then it's not a problem. If Hispanics are allowed to be, again, promote their own race, be proud of their race, then it's not a problem. If Asians, the same thing, then it's not a problem. If Jews, the same thing, then it's not a problem. But if whites do it, if whites advocate for their own race, if whites stand up for themselves, if whites promote their own kind, well, then it's a problem, and you're a bigot, and you're a racist, and you're a homophobe, and you're everything else. A xenophobe and an anti-Semite, and then, of course, the list is endless. But that right there, again, should show people what the narrative enemy is, and who, again, controls that narrative enemy, and then who is controlled by it. So don't be controlled by it. Understand who pulls the strings on all of that, and who, again, is seeking to sow those seeds of division together in order to create conflict. It's not us. It's not white Americans. And it's not any intellectual American who enjoys America and enjoys freedom and the Constitution and God. It's not those people either. It's everybody who distastes all of that. That's what they're interested in. That's what they're doing. And that, of course, is the problem. But it can be defeated. It just takes time, and it takes people to not have amnesia and not fall back on, old messaging from the past that seeks to demoralize people. So, again, the ad is a good thing, and it's a good move in a better direction, no doubt about it. Now, let me shift gears here and make a couple of comments about a few things here regarding Donald Trump that have transpired over the last couple of days. And I'll be fully honest with you, I don't understand all of the ins and outs with all of this. It seems a bit confusing to me. I don't know why one thing hinges on the other. But a couple of individuals, again, who I'm not a fan of course, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of Great Britain and then the Prime Minister of Canada have basically, again, aligned with one another because they do align with one another. But they've openly said that they want to declare Palestine, basically back them for statehood and all of that. And then Donald Trump quickly comes out shortly after, I guess, and openly says they shouldn't do that because that's going to make making a trade deal with them very difficult. He certainly said it about Canada. He's said it about Great Britain as well, even France. I don't understand. I don't understand either side of this. I feel like there's a lot of game playing taking place here. I know a lot of people are very quick to jump on, Zion Don and more name calling regarding that. I'm not necessarily denying all of that to some extent. There's even reports out there where Donald Trump has reached out to some of his Jewish donors in the past or even currently and openly said, the MAGA base is really upset with Israel and they don't like what you're all doing and this, that, and the other. But what we are seeing, which I do think is interesting, is you're seeing a separation between the land of Israel, so to speak, and the people who live there, along with the land of Israel, the people who live there, and Benjamin Netanyahu and his government. There is a division now and a major cracking in all of those three separate entities, so to speak, that has really never happened before, which again, I don't think is a bad thing. It's certainly a new thing, and it's, I think, a good new thing. That there is a difference between the land someone walks on, the people who live there, and then, of course, government. Government can be very, very bad, and they can all be very bad. Once you get down to a people who live on a particular section of land, they're not all bad. But there are a great deal of them, as we know in Israel, who certainly are. And then, at the exact same time, the land just sits there as this inanimate object that doesn't, breathe or move or have an opinion. It's just dirt. So it's not really even involved. It's just what the people who live there believe the land represents, and then what the government believes it believes regarding the people who live there, and then the land that they claim to represent also. I think the whole thing is confusing. Again, I'm not going to attempt to understand the back and forth gameplay with all of it, because I certainly don't know the back and forth gameplay. But I am certain that the people who are doing the name calling in one particular direction toward, again, just Donald Trump, don't know the gameplay either. And they don't know, again, all of the ins and outs that are taking place here, too. I've openly said it here on the show. I think there's more than ample evidence that Donald Trump does not like Benjamin Netanyahu. I think that Donald Trump knows exactly what's been going on in Gaza. I don't think he likes it by any stretch of the imagination. Again, talking heads take to Fox News all the time and openly say, which I don't know how they can do it other than the fact that they're either Jewish or they're, again, openly lying or representing those who are Jewish and lying. But they openly will say things like, well, there's no way that people in Gaza are being starved to death. That's not happening, and that any images of emaciated people that you see, it's because they have a pre-existing condition. It's not because they're being starved to death. I mean, a person has to be completely stupid, brainwashed, or blackmailed or bought off in order to believe such a thing. These are, in fact, crimes against humanity. We know that there's a genocide that's been taking place there this entire time. It continues to happen as I'm talking right now, and it's disgusting. And again, that's where I'll always come out on this. There's nothing that I can do personally about any of it. I wish I could. I wish I could snap my fingers and make all the people who caused all of that pain and suffering to instantly drop dead, and then that would be the end of it. But all of this talk about Hezbollah still existing and Hezbollah's a terrorist organization, whatever else, I just don't even think they exist anymore. I mean, they're almost being used and their name is almost being said as if it's just some kind of a pincushion that just sits there for people to just, again, poke holes in whenever they feel angry, and then everybody's just supposed to blindly believe that they are still around or they still exist. Again, Hezbollah was funded by Netanyahu. It was funded by the Israeli government to, again, have a straw man out there to just so-called fight somebody just because. Although I will say this, I think it's pretty much been put to an end, the whole business of a greater Israel. Isn't it interesting how nobody's talking about that anymore? That's pretty much done away with. And again, as I've said in the past, I think that Netanyahu and Israel, by and large, are just on an island. They're all by themselves, and the number of people on all sides of the so-called political spectrum are dissatisfied and certainly distaste Netanyahu and endless other individuals. Again, from that perspective, I'm 100% fine with it. That doesn't bother me in the slightest. I'm all for it. But it's just how accurate are people when they are describing all of that? Because I've heard some explanations from people regarding it, and they sound remarkably stupid, certainly from a historic standpoint. But yeah, I don't know. It's continuing to be confusing. It's continuing to be disgusting. I don't like it, but there has to be something else that's taking place here. There have to be other pressures that are being placed on people. Again, I'm not saying it's all blackmail toward Donald Trump or something along those lines. I really don't think that's the case. I think he's in charge more than what people know. I think he's got a lot of the individuals in Israel wrapped around his finger, not the other way around. But again, it's very easy for individuals who don't look into particular things to certainly say, well, he's blackmailed and he's, Zion Don, and he's a Zogbot, and that's the way that it's always been. I find that hard to believe given all of the evidence, but again, comments like this and why somebody supporting a particular people has anything to do with any kind of business trade, I don't understand that. I don't understand why that would exist. I mean, I understand, again, the control aspect of it, but I just don't think that that's the sole explanation or even the explanation. Again, it's right up there with everything having to do with Russiagate and the FISA warrants and the treason that, of course, existing in our own country. I think the thing that everybody wants to see is full-blown accountability. The part that continues to disgust people about the Jewish state is that there's no accountability. And you have individuals, again, on all sides of the political spectrum, again, openly discussing how there's no accountability and how even Netanyahu is not a good person and his government is terrible and, again, the ongoing genocide and everything else. But there's just so much confusion from a historic standpoint that people don't know where exactly to place their allegiance, so to speak. And the fact is I don't give a damn about anybody over there. I don't like the slaughter of Christians over there. I don't like the slaughter of innocent people. But I also equally don't like the excuse making that takes place because, in my mind, that's equally as disgusting. The rationale for why they're doing what they're doing is gross. So that's where I come out on all of it. Again, I wish it all would stop, but I can't snap my fingers and make it all stop. So I don't know what exactly I can do other than just continue to point out the hypocrisy and, again, the sort of blind allegiance to Israel. It really is gross and tasteless. Speaking again of gross and tasteless, let me mention this. More emails from the Durham report being released and being highlighted having to do with the DNC's knowledge of all of this, and of course Hillary Clinton. And for those of us who, of course, were alive back when all of this was happening, we knew that these criminals had this within them. We knew that they were doing this, and of course it was highlighted in endless Q posts. Here's 3 particular posts, however, from some of these emails in the Durham report that were highlighted over on Praying Medic's Telegram channel. And this is from a Leonard Bernardo, if I'm saying that right. I think that's a B, or it's either Bernardo or Donardo, I'm not sure. Either way, this was sent on July 25th of 2016, election year. And the first one says the following, quote, it says, "Hi, the media analysis on the DNC hacking appears solid. This is an important story because it would be the first time that we know of that a state deliberately uses the infiltration and publication of data to interfere in the U.S. election. At the same, politicization is on the table. I have been a bit surprised that nobody has mentioned this 18-month-long story yet in their analysis, and makes explicit reference to U.S. elections at the end. They said, Julie says, It will be a long-term affair to demonize Putin and Trump. Now it is good for a post-convention bounce. Later, the FBI will put more oil into the fire. Outcome is far from clear, as Americans are more keen on their own woes, and Hillary is hardly good-looking as far as credibility is concerned. Anyway, things are ghastly for U.S.-Russian relations. Lenny, unquote. And then the next post, again from the same individual on July 27th of 2016, said the following, quote, "Hi, HRC, Hillary Rodham Clinton, approved Julia's idea about Trump and Russian hackers hampering U.S. elections." Basically, they're talking about making up this story. He went on and said that should distract people from their own missing email, especially if the affair goes to the Olympic level. The point is making the Russian play a U.S. domestic issue. Say something like a critical infrastructure threat for the election to feel menace, since both POTUS and VPOTUS have acknowledged the fact IC would speed up searching for evidence that is regrettably still unavailable. Again, openly admitting that they know they have no evidence of any collusion, but they're running with it anyway. It says, however, there seems to be signs GRU penetration, Cyrillic, I don't know what that means, Krylic, 2.0 VPN, Elite VPN, Felix Edmunovich, if I'm saying that right, it says they appear hardly skilled, quote, incompetent, bubbling idiots, unquote, as SBM somebody called them. In absence of direct evidence, CrowdStrike and Threat Connect will supply the media, and GRU will hopefully carry on to give more facts. Again, it's open admission that CrowdStrike and this other group called Threat Connect were feeding the media these lines, and the media was running with it. Therefore, the media was directly involved, and this continues to prove it. And then the last post says the following: during the first stage of the campaign, due to lack of direct evidence, it was decided to disseminate the necessary information through the FBI-affiliated attic-based, quote-unquote, technical structures that are involved in cybersecurity, in particular the CrowdStrike and Threat Connect companies, from where the information would be disseminated through leading U.S. publications. In addition, it is presumed in the FBI that in the future, any clumsy propaganda campaign by the GRU is bound to lead to the emergence of more reliable indications of Moscow's involvement, which would imminently intensify the U.S. confrontational tendencies toward Russia, unquote. That's an important point that they were making in these emails too, which was brought to our attention in Q posts again after the fact. Again, the good guys had these emails from the bad guys this entire time. They were surveilling these people the entire time. And they probably had good people behind the scenes the entire time. Again, sharing these emails with underground military officials who were running this positive psychological operation called the Q operation to wake people up as to what was currently going on among the bad guys, what they were going to do, and then how they were going to be held accountable. But we were told in those Q drops that creating Russia-America tension would ultimately lead again to another war, a real war, between, again, Russia and the world, in the interest, again, of wiping Russia off the face of the map, which, of course, is generally a nationalistic country, and a Christian country at that, and getting rid of their culture, and then, of course, locking people in their homes and jabbing them with COVID shots and the whole thing. I mean, all of this entire scheme was laid out because, again, certainly in Q posts, because that was the plan. The plan from the bad guys was to create this narrative that Russia is our number one enemy. And if a bomb explodes in some country, well, then it's Russia's fault, so we should attack Russia. When in fact, it was going to be a bomb that we probably created, that another country dropped off, or that we dropped off on another country. And then again, that story would be sold to every American, and then off to war we go. But apparently, here in the coming days, there's going to be more even DNI drops and declassifications, along with CIA Director Ratcliffe, and he's going to drop a bunch of stuff as well. Of course, it's all going to tie in HRC and Barack Obama and a number of other individuals. But again, as I've said before, and as you know, anybody who had their fingers in this, even in the slightest, is guilty. Anybody who is knowingly pushing this false narrative is certainly guilty of conspiracy to commit sedition and treason. So that has its own very severe penalties, and we hope that we get to see the result of that certainly in the near future, if not sooner rather than later. Okay, let me move on to this. Ironically enough, as I'm recording this, the power has gone out. Certainly the cable power in the area where I live. I don't even have good cell phone signal, so that's kind of fun. But anyway, fortunately, I've got some of these stories here on backup. Moving on to education now, there was this particular story, again, having to do with the state superintendent, of Oklahoma. And this was sent to me by Cicely in New Mexico, and it seems as if, at face value even, they've set him up to some extent. This was from, KFOR.com. Under Oklahoma Education, your trusted Oklahoma news. It was titled, Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office joins investigation into Walters' nude images allegations. Oklahoma City, it says a criminal investigation is underway after bombshell allegations of explicit nude images played on a TV in State Superintendent Ryan Walters' office during last week's state school board meeting. Now, I'm not even going to read any more of it, other than to say this. Of course, well, they say they're looking into it, so said a spokesperson for the school district. The state's Office of Management and Enterprise Services reached out Monday asking them to investigate if anything criminal happened. They said they don't know whether there was an actual criminal activity, and that's the role of Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office, and our investigation right now is to look into that. Okay. First of all, let's just review very, very quickly. This is the state superintendent who's rather based. He hates the left. He's trying to, again, if he hasn't already done it, push and put Bibles back in public schools, which is, again, a good thing. That should exist in every library, because why wouldn't it? And at the exact same time, he has endless enemies. So if they're saying that he was conducting a Zoom meeting, which apparently is the allegation here, and a television in his office behind the Zoom camera, or within shot of the Zoom camera, was showing whatever, naked girls on it or something along those lines, pornographic images, whatever. How is that possible, and how could that happen? Again, you're smart people. I think you can kind of figure this out. It would be rather odd, first of all, that he would do such a thing in the position that he holds. I think that would be number one, given his certain, recent track record. Number two, it lends itself again to him being set up. And number three, everybody knows that every television, certainly every TV that's made today, including those that exist in office settings, have Bluetooth signals. And they all have their own wireless signal. And so if someone knew what the wireless signal or Bluetooth signal was to his television within his office, they could easily upload any image that they wanted or video that they wanted onto his television, which again, on a turned-on TV, would automatically turn it on, or in some cases, it would turn it on because you're sending a signal to that television, and then it would, again, automatically turn on, if it wasn't, again, already turned on. Point being, it wouldn't be difficult for somebody to basically, you're not even hacking into the television. You're just uploading an image or a video to a TV while it's being recorded from, again, another angle like a Zoom call, and then you get to spread a story saying that he had pornographic images on his TV during a Zoom meeting, in an effort, of course, to discredit him and make him look terrible. That's probably what's going on here, but again, I wasn't there, so I don't know. Either way, that's the story, and that's the one that they're sticking to, and they're basically saying, well, even if that was the case, maybe there's no crime taking place, but again, they're doing it to try to get rid of him, because this is how Bolsheviks act. This is how communists act, and this is what they do. So there was that story bouncing around again. These are the tactics that these people will engage in just to try to get rid of somebody. There was also this having to do specifically again with the education system and child abuse. This was sent to me by a listener of the show also. Shocking report. This was on X and also on my X account. Texas Ed 911. It says 6,888 cases of sexual and violent misconduct by Texas school employees against students in just 34 months. 78% go uninvestigated by the Texas Education Association due to resource shortages, quote unquote. Kids are more at risk from trusted adults, quote unquote, inside schools than shooters outside, yet lawmakers dump $1.4 billion on external security while ignoring internal predators. It goes on, it says Senate Bill 571 and House Bill 4623 was a step in the right direction. Why didn't lawmakers prioritize our children during special session, close the loopholes, fund real oversight, or admit kids are just political props, unquote. Well, they certainly are political props. They've always been. That's never going to change. They're political props also, of course, for the education system as a singular entity. That always is the case as well. They are a number, they are a statistic, and if they say otherwise, they're lying. And of course, as we know, government and the school system engages in pedophilia and child trafficking, and the list is endless, and that's not a new thing. But yeah, this right here should show people that public schools are the problem, charter schools, private schools, any school or institution that is, of course, government run, that has children under its care legally. If something terrible happens to those children, the likelihood of it being investigated to the fullest extent of the law and the right people being held accountable is slim to none, and slim left town. There is some good news, however. This is from North Carolina, and again, I don't have access to the website, but I do have the title here, and it had to do with North Carolina's legislature overrode North Carolina governor, who again happens to be Jewish, last name's Shapiro, overrode his veto of a gender bill that, again, was going to allow boys and girls bathrooms and vice versa. So the House overrode that, so the governor didn't get what he wanted, which is a good thing. Again, these perverse individuals exist in every possible nook and cranny of our society, and there's no way around it. I just don't know what else to say. Again, advocating for such a thing back in the day would have landed him in a mental institution, if not jail. And again, you would think that an entire legislature overriding a governor's veto, where the governor, again, didn't want separate bathrooms for separate sexes of people, that would be the end of his political career. Or at the very least, I don't know, he would be drawn and quartered publicly. You would think something like that would happen, but these people have no problem, and they have absolutely no shame when it comes to displaying their perversions for the entire citizenry to see. I mean, they just do not care. It's amazing. I wanted to read this too. This again was bouncing around the internet, and I saw this first on Truth, and then it was sent to me by a family member, and it's interesting, and I think we're starting to see the cracks in the education system, and we certainly have for quite some time. I would say certainly at least the last 10 plus years. Certainly 2020 played a large role in that too, which, again, as bad as 2020 was in the whole COVID lie, that was kind of a silver lining, if there was one to be found. It was the mass exodus from American schools and the rampant acceptance of child abuse, which apparently, to this day, many administrators and educators and school board members and parents themselves have absolutely no problem with. Anyway, this was titled The Collapse of the Education System from Indoctrination to Illumination, and it's broken down into 3 separate phases. I'm going to summarize this here kind of quickly. It says Phase 1, cracks in the chalkboard, that this takes place from 2015 through 2024. Again, it essentially says that there's more awakening to the indoctrination in public schools, that COVID was a huge trigger, eroding trust, and a number of other things. And of course, as we know, that has been happening. The shattering of trust continues, mass withdrawal from schools, hidden scandals, institutional frauds, and a number of other things, and then the increase of what they call divine AI, which essentially as they put it and as they define it, that artificial intelligence would become an instructional tool, not as the leading guide, but just as an assistant. That this, though, is one of those things that is going to slowly disintegrate the public, private, and charter school system. That more and more people are going to break away from those systems and those brick and mortar institutions and ultimately rely not only on themselves, but the technology that is ubiquitous within almost every individual's home, and certainly those technologies that are available to us in the palm of our hand. And then there's another phase here called the collapse and disclosure, which they claim takes place between 2026 rather, and 2028. Again, having to do with exposing more university fraud, the slow death of that particular world. Again, more universities closing, more use of what they call, again, divine AI, and certainly as a instructional tool. And then the next phase is the rise of what they call soul education between 2028 and 2032 and beyond. The fall of the education system, that it, again, is not seen so much as a tragedy, but as an inevitability. Those that were once called dropouts are now visionaries, and that, again, divine AI is not here to dominate, but to assist in sacred remembering, and essentially be an instructional assistant as opposed to being the leader of said instruction. Because, again, much of it can't be trusted, in particular when you ask it very specific questions about historic events. People have to wordplay if they're really interested in finding out the truth, and just because something, is an AI answer doesn't mean that it is going to be the truth. I think most of us are well aware of that. But moving on now to a few jab-related things, which unfortunately are directly connected to the wireless body area network. And again, this isn't good as far as I'm concerned. Donald Trump had a little roundtable meeting the other day. Dr. Oz was there, Robert Kennedy Jr., and this had to do, again, with streamlining the medical system and technology as one. I have 2 videos I want to play here regarding this. This is about 3.5 minutes long of Donald Trump describing this. Everybody's got their own opinions on this, but I'm telling you, I'm not a fan. I think that this could lead to something far worse. Again, it reeks of the wireless body area network to a great extent, mass surveillance. Certain people may be having access to certain medical things if they want it, as opposed to others, but at the exact same time, my take on all of this. Take care of yourself, look up holistic natural remedies for a number of different things, and let that be your guide, as opposed to, of course, relying on the medical industrial complex and all of its games that it plays and the money-making schemes that they engage in also. Again, with everything digitized, that means that everybody has access to all of your medical records all of the time. And it'd be better to just not have any medical records whatsoever, and just, again, learn how to take care of oneself without ever needing a doctor to begin with, let alone insurance, for that matter. So anyway, give him a listen here, the President of the United States, for the next 3.5 minutes in 3, 2, 1.
But with today's announcement, we take a major step to bring healthcare into the digital age, something that is absolutely vital. Got to do it. Moving from clipboards and fax machines into a new era of convenience, profitability, and speed, and frankly, better health for people. Under the leadership of Administrator Oz, we're officially launching the CMS Digital Health Tech ecosystem to give healthcare providers, insurers, and software companies the tools they need to empower Americans with a 21st century experience on health. The key breakthrough we've made is getting many of the biggest names in the healthcare and technology to agree to industry-wide standards for electronic medical records. All of those great companies that you just heard have gotten together with this group of very brilliant people. I don't know who's more brilliant, them or them. I don't know. Could be them. I hate to tell you. It could very well be them. But I don't know. I'm going to take my team. But the key breakthrough we've made is getting many of the biggest names in healthcare and technology to agree to that those standards of electronic medical records that we talk about and you've heard about for so many years, and now it's happening. This will allow patients to easily transmit information from one doctor to another, even if they're different networks and using different record keeping systems. No matter what system they use, they're all transferable. The new standards will also make it simple for patients to access their own personal health records. I don't want to see mine, please. I don't want to see. I don't know about you. They have all sorts of things, sir. They can tell you exactly what your problem is going to be in 6 years. We can do it. You know, they have all these different things. I don't know if they work or not, but I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear it. If they got a problem, I don't want to know about it right now. But it is amazing what they're doing. I don't know. Does it actually work? Can they do that? All right. Well, then I'm glad I said I don't want to know. But thanks to this announcement, healthcare providers across the country will also finally be able to kill the clipboard. It's an expression that's used, the capital C, kill the clipboard. Instead of filling out the same tedious paperwork at every medical appointment, patients will simply be able to grant their doctors access to their records at the push of a button. Just a button and you're all set, and all the information the doctor needs will be immediately transmitted. The system will be entirely opt-in, and there will be no centralized government-run database, which everyone is always concerned about. I'm less concerned than anybody. I say whatever it is, it is. But people are very, very concerned about the personal records. They want to keep them very quiet, and that's their choice. I think it's a great thing because it'll be absolutely quiet. Instead, doctors and patients will always remain in control. The benefits to millions of Americans will be enormous. We will save time, we will save money, and most importantly, we'll save lives. It's just going to make people live longer and be a lot healthier. I think that's really what you're looking to do.
Okay, first of all, I want to be fair on this. First of all, I see the convenience of it. I get it. A QR code pops up on your phone. It's an app that you download. It has all of your medical records on there. I mean, I get it. For those that use the system, it's a convenient way to use the system. My concern lies in who else has access to that information. That's one level of concern. The next level of concern, of course, is the fact that doctors don't read your medical records very well anyway. Unless you have, again, one doctor that you've seen for most of your life and they're very familiar with you and things that have been going on. But we also know, again, that the medical industry and doctors are not interested in curing things as much as they are treating things and pumping people full of medicine so that they can profit. That, unfortunately, is the wavelength of thought, and that's the business. Where this gets worse is sort of on a third level, has to do with artificial intelligence and how all of that medical record stuff for an individual and or a region or a family or a society, I mean, regardless of how small you want to get, that all of that information would be pumped into an AI system for an AI system to then be pumped back an answer rather to a doctor. And then the doctor would read the AI answer and then believe it. That they wouldn't bounce that AI answer off of anything else or anyone else, let alone their own mind. And they would just, again, run with it. That once all of, again, a person's medical information is digitized, the AI response to what should happen to that individual will be pre-planned for the doctor to read to the patient, as if, again, the patient needs the doctor to read them that, but they will just blindly believe it. Both parties will. This, again, is getting rid of individualized thought among doctors, medical doctors in offices. Whether they have originalized thought or not is up for debate. I think the last 5 years would prove that they have none. However, certainly the ones that remained in the business anyway. But it also, of course, is designed to take out any individualized research on the part of the patient. Let me give you one quick example of how even basic search engines, of course, many of which are run by AI systems, are remarkably problematic. Whatever it was, two weeks ago, I want to say, I had swimmer's ear. Now, I don't ever recall having swimmer's ear, but my left ear was clogged and it physically hurt to the touch. So I started looking it up and, what is this? And well, they basically, again, certain search engines were saying it's probably swimmer's ear, and that's probably what it is. And then you look up, again, depending on the search engine, how do you get rid of swimmer's ear? The very first search that pops up is basically a 9-alarm fire. That every single thing regarding swimmer's ear, that you need to make an appointment with your doctor immediately. They need to prescribe you antibiotics. You need to go to an ear, nose, and throat doctor. They need to put things into your ear and check things out, and then they need to write you a prescription and blah, blah, blah. Again, you can hear the cha-ching sound just piling up. But then, of course, if you got on my website, under the medical documents tab, and the very first website at the top is earthclinic.com, and you click on that, and then you scroll down to where it says ailments A to Z, and you click on that, and then you scroll down through the S's to where it says swimmer's ear, and you click on that. It'll tell you basically two things. It'll say swimmer's ear is remarkably common. You can take hydrogen peroxide, pour it into your ear, leave it in there for about 3 minutes, and then let it dry out. You can take a hair blower and blow a hair dryer into your ear to dry out your ear, and that's a great way to get rid of it also. Or you can take, 50% white vinegar, 50% hydrogen peroxide, drop it into your ear, let it sit in there for a couple of minutes, and then let it pour out, and then dry your ear out, and that should be fine. And then the very last sentence says, don't worry, swimmer's ear pretty much always takes care of itself on its own anyway. You see what I'm saying? It's two completely separate answers to a very small problem. One has you, again, panicking and rushing to the doctor to spend God knows how much money on God knows what for something that it probably won't even help. Or you can just think for yourself, look up a holistic answer to the thing that ails you, and it's right there, and it doesn't cost anything. That right there is really the fork in the road that we face as a society right now from a medical standpoint, the way that I see it, and it's been this way for a while. But that right there, again, I view that as being the problem to some of this, is that it's not just about making it convenient for individuals who utilize the medical system on a constant basis so that they don't have to come in with a giant folder of information for their doctor to see, that everything is digitized. Again, I see the convenience of it. I get it. It makes perfect sense. The problem is can that be manipulated in a digital sense, in a digital platform? And the answer is yes. And then, of course, who's really going to be reading it? Who's going to interpret it? Who or what? And then, like I said earlier, if AI gets a hold of it, is that AI answer going to differ from doctor to doctor, state to state, region to region, or country to country? Who's to say? Again, we're entering uncharted waters here, which is a bit odd. There's another video here having to do with this and explaining this a little bit, specifically having to do with, again, the QR code and the digital platform of all of this. This is about 2 minutes long. Give this a listen in 3, 2, 1.
Imagine scanning a QR code at your doctor's office and instantly sharing your medical history, just like when you board a flight. Imagine having an AI assistant that knows your care plan and helps you manage medications with confidence. Picture patients truly at the center of their care, building stronger relationships with providers who can focus on healing instead of on paperwork, freed from the administrative burden that technology should have solved years ago. That's not science fiction. That's what healthcare can and should look like. We're finally at a moment where real progress is possible. CMS, under Administrator Oz's leadership, understands both the urgency and the opportunity. CMS is building the core infrastructure, a national healthcare directory, secure data access, and modernized systems. But the future of healthcare technology can't come only from the government. The apps, services, and tools that make this data useful in people's lives must come from you, the private sector. We're creating the space for new ideas to rise so better solutions can compete, scale, and help real people like Morgan. Step into this space with us. This isn't just a showcase, it's a national sign of acceleration. It's about action. We're asking real companies to make real commitments, to build data sharing networks, to create apps that deliver real health outcomes, to help us kill the clipboard and give people a healthcare system that's smart and secure. Let's stop waiting and let's definitely stop faxing. Let's start building. The right data at the right time can mean the difference between loss and hope. The time is now. Are you in?
Produced by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
First of all, no, I'm not in. I have to say this, okay? And again, it's going to sound terrible. I'm not going to take advice from an ugly, morbidly obese female. Not health advice, anyway. Certainly won't do it. I mean, I'm just not going to do it. That was the person giving the presentation. The vast majority of the presentation in the video, by the way, was AI generated. They were AI people made to look like real people. I mean, all of it was artificial intelligence. So that should tell you again that even in their ads, they're willing to use artificial intelligence videos to get their message across. The other thing is when she mentioned apps for real health outcomes, they show a child with a Apple Watch on their left wrist and their cell phone in their right hand. Again, it's all AI generated, but it's made to look like it's real, and of course there it is, and we know that this already exists. All of their massive push for wearables, and they want everybody, every American wearing a wearable in the next 4 years, and all this other nonsense, which I've played that audio and been over on the show before, but that's the problem, is that it's getting individuals to be addicted to numbers and applications more so than they already are, and then get them to actually believe what those numbers and applications are telling them when, in fact, the message that they're telling them is probably 100% inaccurate. Not to mention the wireless body area network and wireless radiation, and all of that being a massive problem. That's not something that should be normalized. It should be something that is removed. Again, it itself creates illness. So why people would continue to adopt it is kind of beyond me, but it is one of these things that continues to happen. And again, it becoming ubiquitous is a bit of a problem. Now, let me mention this very quickly, because I've got, again, 2 other wireless body area network stories, but this is kind of a decent sort of segue here. Again, specifically having to do with the COVID bioweapons. There was this particular post on greatawakening.win, and the title said the following: anyone else experiencing this? Is the CV vax, 3 X's, starting to kick in? They said, quote, I am not CV vaxxed, but I have 2 people close to me, a family member and a friend, who were both hospitalized this month. They said, number 1, the family member took the jab and booster reluctantly to keep their job and education. He is early 50s and suffered a mild stroke-like ailment in July that involved blurred vision in his right eye, borderline blinding, and extremely high blood pressure, which, by the way, the blinding aspect and the impact of the COVID shots on eyesight and the eyes in particular has been well researched, and the jury is in that it damages eyesight greatly. Anyway, they continued, and they said extremely high blood pressure. He is physically fit, active, and not at all a high risk health-wise. The blurred vision was so bad rather that he needed an injection via needle of some kind directly into his right eye. It says number 2, the family friend is early 40s and aside from enjoying a lot of beer is otherwise healthy. Also active, not overweight. He, however, was all in on everything CV and happily vaxxed, boosted, masked up, went through hand sanitizer like crazy, quarantined, and took 5 to 6 months off of work. In July, he was hospitalized for 3 days due to high blood pressure and dangerously low sodium, quote unquote. The person said neither of these 2 are overweight or what I would consider unhealthy. Both drink alcohol casually but are nowhere near alcoholics, and both are fit and have active non-sedentary jobs/lifestyles. The only thing I can think of is the jab given its clot potential. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. They wrapped up and said, not seeking prayers or medical advice, though both are gladly welcome, but more wondering if anyone else is experiencing this in their social circles. I always assumed the vax effects wouldn't be immediate 2020, but figured the effects would hit after a certain period like 4 to 5 years. Are we at that point? Unquote. I just want to revisit one quick thing here, and it was, of course, a quotation that I'm forgetting her name. Cahill, there we go. Dr. Dolores Cahill. Thank God for the mind. I knew it was in my brain pan somewhere. She was one of the first to bring up that time span, and whatever it was, the next 5 to 7 years, 3 to 5 year timeline regarding massive illness and or death among those who took the COVID shots. The reason that she came up with that timeline, and the reason that I certainly repeated it publicly, was because that's basically the general timeline when it comes to someone who has a massively compromised immune system and does not know it. That's assuming that the individual is operating on a basis of not knowing what is going on inside of their body. Therefore, they're not even attempting to learn about what's going on, let alone treat it effectively. Again, whether that be nicotine gum, other detox programs, exercise, diet, what have you. As we know, there are, ivermectin use, fenbendazole, menbendazole, and other orals that people can take, so to speak. That's where that timeline comes from. Again, it would be like a so-called AIDS patient being diagnosed with a permanently compromised immune system, but not taking anything to, again, increase blood flow or increase T cell count or something along those lines. And then they sort of just wither away, much like Deion Sanders is. And even Dr. McCullough just put out an article having to do with Deion Sanders just today as I'm recording this, believe it or not, on his Substack page. So, I mean, he can read between the lines and he knows what's going on here. But even so, again, I don't wish ill for these individuals who have taken all of these shots. At least I should say the innocent, kind-hearted parties who actually, are innocent enough and they thought that they were doing what they thought they needed to do. However, the individuals that were wishing us dead for not taking the shots, well, you're on your own. I'm not going to cry over spilled milk, regarding their passing or anything on that kind of a wavelength. Either way, if a person doesn't recognize what's going on with their body, and they start to fall apart and they don't receive, again, ethical medical treatment from people who really know what's going on with them and why it's happening the way it's happening, then yes, their lifespan is going to dramatically decrease. In fact, those numbers have been played with professionally, so much so that they've said that the individuals who have taken the COVID shots, they've reduced their life expectancy by 30 some odd years. That if they thought they were going to make it into their 70s or 80s, chances are they'll make it into their 50s or less. Again, I'm not one to say one way or another. I'm really not. And I'm not going back on what I previously said. I do believe, again, that a great deal of people who took those shots, certainly the more they take, the worse off they're going to be and the worse off they are. Regardless of the kind of shot at this point, because, again, they're practically ubiquitous when it comes to the amount of poison and nanotech that's in all of them. But with that said, people becoming ill within, again, 3 months to 3 to 5 years after taking the shots has been proven. Again, death is another aspect of it, and that's another parameter, but who's to say regarding that? Some people are dead from not even taking the shots, just being around the people who took them. That's a very real thing. Newborn babies, again, receiving breast milk from their jabbed mothers, and then the newborn baby dies. This is a real thing. The baby isn't jabbed, but the baby is receiving toxic breast milk as a result, with spike proteins, i.e. nanotech, inside of that breast milk. So again, all of this has been proven, but it's an ongoing thing. It continues to occur, and I'm not sure what to say, other than, again, if individuals don't recognize what they've done to themselves, then they'll never reach out to someone who's perhaps more knowledgeable on it to find the cure for what ails them. Let me mention this now again, 2 final things having to do with the wireless body area network. This was on Disclosed TV just today, and it said the following. UK Minister of Justice deploys AI into prison system to curb rising prisoner attacks on officers. This will include an AI violence predictor to access an inmate's risk levels, scanning confiscated phones for messages, digital ID to link offenders to court records, digital assistance, and potentially wearable tech for behavior monitoring and other AI applications. Justice Secretary Savannah Mahmood, what an English name, told tech companies she wants, quote, deeper collaboration between government and tech to solve the prison capacity crisis, reduce reoffending, and make communities safer. And then the title was AI to Predict Prisoner Attacks on Officers. This is the movie Minority Report for prisoners. It's pre-crime, and it's predictive behavioral application as to whether or not these individuals will engage in a violent crime against, again, their fellow inmates or individuals who are working within the prison system. They're using the prison system, in my opinion, as the testing ground because prisoners theoretically have no rights, certainly not over there, because citizens don't have any rights over there, let alone prisoners. So they're using the prison system as a test subject and as a testing ground for their pre-crime, precognition, Minority Report surveillance as to whether or not they believe that someone is going to commit a crime before they actually do, based on AI algorithms. This will then be rolled out into the public, in my opinion, if it hasn't already, to some extent. It's terrible. At face value, it's scary as hell. But this is a thing that exists, and I just wanted to let you know of that because, again, the UK is not English free nor white, ladies and gentlemen. It is a complete police state, and you are doing time over there for free speech, so to speak. Even though their prime minister says we have free speech, well, you certainly do. You just throw people in jail for it. I saw whatever it was. A guy got 10 months in prison or whatever it was, a year plus in prison for posting a meme about illegal immigration. Let that sink in. And then finally, again, regarding the wireless body area network, this had to do with Comcast as a cable company specifically. It claimed that more individuals were cutting cable lines in their homes, but they were seeing an increase in 5G home internet surges, i.e. wireless internet. Now, of course, that's coming because of streaming services. And you don't need, of course, a hard line in your house other than to hook up to a router, which is hooked up, again, to a wireless modem. And then you have wireless internet in your home, assuming that you're not using a hard line. But the business of using hard lines for televisions in general is going out of style. The problem, of course, is that people's homes are increasing with 5G wireless radiation. And there's more homes like that are doing that. And of course, that's not a good thing. Not good for humans, not good for pets, not good for a lot of things. So again, just wanted to bring that to your attention too. But that particular article was kind of interesting because, let me see here. It was cordcuttersnews.com/Comcast lost 226,000, it says, internet customers and 325,000 TV customers in the second quarter of 2025 as cord cutting 2.0 accelerates while 5G home internet surges. That was the title of the article. Again, it sounds like a good thing, but given what we know about the wireless body area network and 5G radiation, again, more homes are cutting cords, which is good to an extent, depending on how you look at it. but unfortunately, they're increasing their wireless usage within their homes, which is likely to increase ailments. And then, of course, these individuals won't know that that very convenience is the thing that ails them. And it's the vicious cycle kind of all over again. So there you go. Again, a lot of content there. Thanks for listening as always. Again, head on a swivel like usual. Have a great weekend, everybody, and I will catch you on Monday. Peace. Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.